What we're going to look at now is an exercise in what we call beam bearings. Now, when you're steaming along on a vessel, a very useful exercise is to get a beam bearing on an object, particularly at an alter course position. So you can be steaming along, and when a certain object is a beam to the vessel, you can have it as an alter course position. Something a beam to the vessel means that it's 90 degrees to the ship's head. So beam bearings are always 90 degrees to the ship's head. You must remember that. It's 90 degrees to the ship's head. Of course, when you're on the vessel and you're steaming along and you need to get the 90 degrees to the ship's head, it's fairly straightforward because you just get your compass bearing at 90 degrees. When you're doing an exercise on a chart in the classroom, or certainly in an examination situation, it can sometimes be confusing. But the golden rule is it is 90 degrees to the ship's head. So we're just going to do an exercise now to show you really what to avoid doing. So we've got to drawn a course here on the chart at position A, and we're just going down the chart, and we're going to come to a situation where we are a beam to the East Channel light vessel. So the light vessel's just here, and that's our course line here, and we're going to work out when we're going to be a beam to it. So if we're simply steaming along this course here that I've drawn, we would check what that course is. We'd have a look on the compass rose, and it's 124 degrees. So if we want to be a beam to the 124 degrees, we just simply add 90 degrees to that. So on the course A, we'll call this course A, our beam bearing to the light vessel, 124 plus 90, it's 214 degrees. So we can get 214 degrees on our compass rose, run it down, and at this position here we will be a beam, as you can see, to that course. Okay, we're 90 degrees to that course. So that's simply a course that we're steaming, having no leeway, no current. It's just simply that's the ship's head, 90 degrees to the ship's head. Okay, now let's introduce some current, and I've put that on the chart here. So we've been affected by the current here. I've measured our steaming speed for an hour and worked out what water track we have to go along in order to carry on the line, the original course line that we've drawn on. And going to the compass rose, it tells us that we now have to steer 132 degrees. So if you like, this course B is 132 degrees. So the helmsman now is steering a course of 132 degrees to enable us to carry along steaming along this line like so. So when we come down to the beam bearing position, you can see that our ship's head now is not the 124 degrees that the course line is. Our ship's head is actually 132 degrees. So we need to be 90 degrees to the ship's head. So 132 plus 90, that's now 222 degrees. So we go again to our compass rose, we measure 222 degrees, and that now there is our beam bearing. So you can see it's not 90 degrees to the course line, which it was in A when we were not affected by the current. It's now 90 degrees to the ship's head of 132. So already there's a slight discrepancy in the distance you would steam before the alter course position. Let's now introduce leeway as well. We've got a southerly wind blowing us 10 degrees that we need to counteract. So now, instead of steering a ship's head of 132, we now need to steer 142 degrees. So the helmsman is steering 142 to counteract now both current and leeway. So the beam bearing now is 142 plus 90, which is 232 degrees. So if we now plot 232 degrees, so the helmsman is steering 232, so you can see now there's quite a discrepancy in distance between A, B and C. And if we were to measure that between A and C, there's about 1.4 miles. So when you're steaming along and you wish to make an alter course position, perhaps at a critical point, 1.2 miles can make a heck of a difference. So it's very important that you understand this principle, and of course it's a principal error if you get it wrong. Beam bearings are always 90 degrees to the ship's head. So if you do have a typical exam problem and it talks about beam bearings, write down on your script straight away a beam to the ship's head to remind you, because there'll definitely be current and leeway involved, and you'll start getting confused whether it's 90 degrees to the water track, 90 degrees to the course you're making good. It's not, it's 90 degrees to the ship's head.